Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. And it's nice to be back. You know, the strangest thing happened. Like the other day, I had the most head splitting migraine, and just for the life of me, I couldn't get up. It was like my head was hurting, I couldn't think properly. It was just freaking terrible. But I'm feeling a lot better right now. And honestly, I just don't know what happened. It's like I just had a headache and I couldn't do anything. So I'm finishing up working on this animation, and then probably halfway through the stream, I'm going to work on some new character designs that came to my mind. I was actually working on the poses for a while. So for this segment, what I'm going to do is sort of draw like a mid jump where the character is sort of crouching down and getting ready to jump because there's an attack coming. Hmm. And one of the good things is actually like right when I started streaming, there was like these pretty nice dark clouds that rolled in. Like it feels like it's going to storm. Maybe not storm, but at least have like a nice light rainfall in like the next couple of minutes. I'm in North Carolina, so I actually haven't checked the weather. But that would be some nice ambiance. Having some chill rain, maybe like a slow rumble of thunder while I'm drawing, while I'm animating. What does iWeather say? Yeah, it's saying rain starts in like 7 minutes. So, you guys are about to have some nice, chill ambiance. My last stream, Tuesday, I actually had my fan on in the background because I decided to turn the AC off and just let the air circulate in the house. Hmm. This feels pretty nice, streaming like this. I wonder what everyone's doing. Me, I'm applying to some new jobs. I wasn't able to apply to anything yesterday, but for the most part, I did what I can. I've also been working on this animation, and I've also been doing some writing. I've been trying to build the overarching lore of the series I'm working on. What I'm doing is I'm sort of not necessarily giving up on proportions, but I'm more so working on gestures to carry my animation process so that the actual storyboarding and keyframing of my animation doesn't take as much time as it usually does. Because when I was animating before, I would take so much time trying to make sure I got every little detail drawn out for my animation. Ooh, I actually got a Facebook notification. Usually I try to turn my do not disturb on, but I also have to keep it on in case I get a call. Um, that was just a Facebook thing. But what I do is I'm trying now to grow in my skills as an artist. So what I'm doing is primarily using gestures so that I can sort of capture the, I guess, spirit or energy of the animation. And there's always the option to add more frames to sort of streamline the final product. But for the most part, right now, what I'm doing is just primarily operating with gestures. And I guess this is why it behooves so many animators and artists in general to sort of find their style. It's kind of funny. Not necessarily because I'm not finding my style, but more so because the style I'm going for personally is a bit more on the, what's the proper word to say? I'm trying to draw actual. I'm trying to have a more humanoid style to my art and to my artistic approach. And so that's why I'm going for this sort of skeleton and gesture that I am right here. Still trying to sort of have the idea or impression of a human being, but still simplistic enough to allow me to work faster than I was in the past. It's pretty nice. I think I'm trying to overextend too much. That was sort of like a quick shorthand. I can probably do a slow ease in as he's sort of falling back down. Hmm. Looks like the wind is rolling through. I don't know if y'all can hear it or not. Yep, that's the wind rolling through. I wonder how it's going to ease. Oh my, I forgot to. Okay, so this is not my stream layout. I apologize for that. Let me just fix this real quick. I think it was. Nope. It was this one right here. And I also forgot to update my chat. You see, right here, I'm seeing my chat rate go up. This is so scuffed. I apologize. Let me see here. If I can update my stream real quick so you guys can actually see the comments and stuff that you want to say to me. But essentially, the overarching plan is for me to work on this animation, and then afterwards, I'm going to work on some character designs because I have some new poses. How long have I been drawing for? It's nice to meet you, Corgi. I've been drawing for about 5 years, 6 years. Because the whole thing is that I went to college for it. I got my degree in media, and since I haven't really been having much luck in the job market, I've been streaming. And I've been working on animations, and I've been sort of sharing my artistic process with anyone who will really sit down and listen. I like to stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays around noon, mainly because that feels like the most, I guess one could say, optimal time for me. Is it allows people to essentially have sort of like their lunch break, I guess you could say. It's all about working in your own time. That's really all I can say on that matter is you shouldn't be comparing yourself to other people. Just focus on your own art and focus on your own journey. Because there's always going to be someone who is a bit more ahead of you or someone who's a bit worse than you. But that is completely fine and that is completely okay. And also, if you're like an artist or an animator, don't compare what you're doing to, say, an illustrator or an editor, because those are two different disciplines. Compositing is different from in betweening, coloring is different from illustration. There may be some overlap, but for the most part, it's okay to have a different quality or a different style than someone of a different discipline. I found my progress has gotten a lot better because I completely skipped the play phase and have mainly focused on study. Now I've been going through like Drawbox, and I'm gonna start going through the Scott Robertson book, How to Draw. Everyone has their own methods of growth, everyone has their own methods of development. I was actually watching another animation creator, and basically the advice he gave was to like overlay, like try to rotoscope and try to animate on the ones, twos, and threes of whatever thing that you're filming. And it's also good to actually study other animators. Like, I made a post a few weeks ago. I was doing a study of Monty Ohm and Monty Ohm's works. And he's like a really good action animator. I will say that long term, my desire for animation is more so story centric, but I do want to have action filled moments. And that's going to be very fun to work on and do as time goes forward. Kind of what I'm trying to do here. I mean, if you want to look at some of my old animations and like try to rotoscope them, then you can do that. Or it's all about finding the method that works for you, because everyone is different and everyone goes through their artistic process differently, and that's completely fine and that's completely natural. I mean, if you think I'm a good animator and you want to study from me, then that is completely fine of you to do. I still need to work on my confidence in my art. But if people like it, then okay, then we can do so. We can work on that. We can do something with that. But here's one thing: I will never write a book. Okay, like I know people who they like to gatekeep knowledge, and if they have something, then they'll write a book on it. I'm like, no. Whatever advice I have, I'm going to freely give it, and you're going to get it in either a live stream or a YouTube video. Like, never expect me to write a book. I don't like writing books. I just want to make stories, make some beautiful animations, and then get paid for making those animations. And that's completely natural, okay? Corgi, art is a journey. It's one of the things that oftentimes is forgotten is that art is a journey. And so in that journey, you sort of have to be you kind of have to humble yourself. You kind of have to accept the fact that when you're pursuing art and you want to not even be the best artist, but simply just get paid for your art, you sort of have to come to the realization that you're always going to be growing, and it doesn't do you any good to compare yourself to the art of other people, but compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And that's why I've always been a man of faith who's also been an artist, is because, at least in my mind and in my interpretation, is that it's like faith and art are two sides of the same coin. And it's okay if you don't want to get paid. Like, there is still a beauty and there is still a power in creating art merely for the sake of creation in and of itself. That's a beautiful and wonderful thing. It's definitely something that is amazing and has its own worth in the world. To not even expect to be paid, but to still do it anyway. And like, I'm not going in saying like, oh, I just want to be paid and I don't care about art. Like, I really truly do care about my art. And not wanting to be paid or wanting to be paid does not add or subtract value. It's just some people want to make it a career and other people want to make it a hobby. And both are completely valid. Like, I can say that my experience working in a museum, I can say that it's like people who enjoy art in the more contemporary, sort of like gallery artists, they're completely different from animators and other more hobbyists, or I guess one could say people who more so pursue art for the sake of creation. I mean, it's all for the sake of creation. But I guess from my experience, there's sort of like this faux realness when it comes to contemporary artists. And what I mean by that is people love to Well, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you a hobbyist, but it's sort of I know what you're talking about, and I understand what you're saying. It's just sometimes it's hard for me to find the proper, I guess one could say, description. You're not a hobbyist. Like you, I can tell from the way you're speaking that you really care about your art and you really care about the craft. It's more so like this above self love and pursuit for creation that goes beyond merely a hobby, but is also something that is completely unique from wanting monetary benefits from the act of creation in and of itself. It's like you have a true spirit and heart for creation. I'm sort of just getting all spiritual in my descriptions. I'm sorry if it's coming off as weird. But I was talking about contemporary artists. So, like, before, well, not really before, but like, I was streaming for a while. I got this job as sort of like this event assistant where I was working at a museum and people would rent the museum out and I would set up tables, break down tables, stuff like that. And there were so many different events that I would go to and I would set up for. And there were moments and times where I would see other artists. And it's like a contemporary artist, they seek deeper meaning for their art, but in that same vein, it's like contemporary artists, the people who are in culture centers or in the downtown areas of their cities and they have like 5 or 10 paintings or photos that they've taken and they've rented out an entire space for people to look at their art. It's like, just in general, I guess one could say that people who live in a downtown setting almost don't really live in reality, at least from what I've seen. From what I've gleaned, is that people live in sort of a picturesque view of the world where a lot of things are sunshine and rainbows and things are almost, I guess one could say, fake in a sense. It's only when you get into the outskirts where all the walls crumble and you get more into the suburban areas or southern areas or more outskirts of that metropolitan area is when you actually see, I guess one could say, the truth of the world. I have not heard of Dropbox. And yes, I completely understand the type of person who spends 8 hours studying only for the next day to do the same 8 hours so I can get closer to my goals of actually creating what I want. I get that. I completely get that because I would. I'm saying was. I still am the same way where I'll study and I'll look at things or I'll read or I'll watch a few videos. Sometimes I'll be binge watching TikTok in the background while I'm working on my art. I mean, Corgi, you're not alone in what you're experiencing or what you're going through. So many people are trying to be better than they were the next day. Quitting the idea of drawing for fun is a difficult thing to deal with, but unfortunately, I wasn't progressing. That's the funny thing about progression is Sometimes you have to look at your very first thing you drew. And I know it sounds silly, but sometimes you have to look at your very first project and see how far you've come. Because if you were to hold up your first art piece, or in my case, your first animation, and then compared it to what you're doing now and how you want to grow and develop now, like you would actually see how much better you've gotten. It's just because we're living in our own existences, sometimes we don't notice the actual growth that we have achieved. Sometimes it takes us a second to look back and actually assess what we're going through. I don't think that you're not progressing. I think that you don't see your progression because you have not yet been able to observe the actual growth and changes that you wanted to see. But you're still growing, you're still progressing. You're still a lot better than you were yesterday. And that has a value and a beauty of its own. Drawing backgrounds is so difficult because people don't realize how many concepts you need to understand. I think a lot of people who don't do art just think there's good artists and there's bad artists, no in between. And you see, that's the sad part is people don't see the in between. People don't see the work that goes into the growth and progression of art and how we go from one state to another and how we go from being a beginner and just starting off to working on something better or growing in our skills. I think people. And I completely understand. I completely understand not getting respect. Like, I've been streaming for. I would say this may be like my fourth year streaming right now. And before I had like sort of this, I guess you could call it spiritual burnout, and there was just months at a time when I wasn't streaming. Before that, I was streaming for like maybe 2.5, 3 years straight, and I actually had gotten up to like 80 views on the replays of my streams, and I was growing and I was getting better, and I was just developing more and more. But then I sort of fell into the mindset, or rather, fell into the concern that I was only ever drawing or doing my art when I was on stream. And so I had to. Exactly. And I fully accept that I'm a novice artist. I never said I wasn't. I'm not a master. I'm just a person with, I guess you could say, high functioning empathy and introspection. I guess I'm self aware to the fact that despite me having my own insecurities and despite me having my own drawbacks and desire to be better, I'm still able to not fool myself into a sense that I'm better than I am. And that's perfectly okay to be a beginner. But I actually kind of want to look at your art if you don't mind. I wonder if there's a way for me to do like a search or view your channel. Oh. Well, that's okay. If you don't post your art, that's completely fine. I didn't mean to pressure you. I apologize. I was gonna like look at your page and see if you had anything. But if you're one of those people that don't post your art, then that's completely fine as well. I do have Discord. You see, I actually would start a Discord channel for my. I would start like a Discord server for my channel, but I feel like that would be more of like a 500 subscriber or maybe like a thousand subscriber type thing. Like I wouldn't. Yes, I have a Discord account. Mm. We can save that for after the stream. I also have my email on my YouTube channel, so you can always email me or send me stuff that way. And then I can give you some feedback. But there's a beauty in all art, and there's like a uniqueness to a person's art. So there's really no. How do I put it? It's like only you see the world the way you see it. And so, in that, there is a value to the way you create what it is that you are creating. So, whether you view yourself as a beginner or a novice or a master, or whether you view your work as good or bad or shoddy, there's still a value in what you create and what you do. Only you can tell the stories that you want to tell. Only you can create the art that you want to create. Only you have. Because I'm not. Then lean into that advanced perspective. Like what I learned from contemporary artists is so many different modern day artists and like physical painters, they always have some sort of story to them. Like, oh, they love cars, so all they do is draw cars, or they love impressionism, so all they do is do impressionist paintings, or every modern artist has a gimmick. And, you know, if you want to find your gimmick, then find your gimmick. If you don't want to find your gimmick, then you don't have to. But it all boils down to finding what it is you love to create and why. Oftentimes, what people consider disabilities are just unique perceptions of the world. And so, in that, there is a way that life can be depicted through the eyes of people who are different in order to broaden understanding. And I think that's a beauty of its own. I mean, I would say play into it. Play into your autism, play into the intricate way you see the world, play into the complicated way that you see the world, the dynamicism, is that a word? The dynamics of what you see and how you perceive. What I'm really wanting to learn to get good at is construction, able to draw complicated objects with first doing simple forms. Look, let me tell you something. When it comes to construction and architectural design and architectural art, it is all about perspective. Okay, when it comes to like all of this concept art you see and all this other stuff, it's all either going to be 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective, or the occasional three, or the occasional 3 point perspective. And I actually do have some art I can actually look at real quick. Because actually on my YouTube channel, I actually posted some samples of like some, just some roughs I was working on. Really, that's all. Because I was working on some concept art, and that had some 3 point perspective that I was doing, some like 2 and 3 point perspective. I've been studying perspective for 2 years now, and I still think I need another 3 before I have enough to be able to move. How do I? Dang it, something went wrong. Chrome added a new. Now, how do I do this? I'm trying to pull up some of my old art, like an old sample I did. Give me 1 second. Now let's see if I can find it. Cause it's gonna be through my reel. It's gonna be through my posts I did. Right here. Right here. Like this right here. Like this is some 3 point perspective that I did. And you see how I essentially have the horizon line is up here. It's going to be this vertical line. And then the vanishing point is going to be at the bottom down here, but that's completely off screen. And this was just like a sort of like a rough mock-up because I haven't been back to it in a minute. But I'm going to add windows, I'm going to add shading, I'm going to add all this other stuff. Really, because what I did was I essentially just did sort of like a 3 point perspective overview. And then at the bottom where these characters are, that was just its own 1 point perspective that's sort of going to be sort of this top down view. And then I also have these extra floating buildings, but these floating buildings and floating islands are more so 2 point perspective within that 3 point perspective. So the main thing is this 3 point perspective, which is the core or the centerpiece of the art, this simple 1 point perspective that's in the extreme foreground, and then the 2 point perspective that's going on in the skyline area. I've been studying perspective for 2 years. If I was to pay, but your buildings, I think, really lack depth, but your perspective is good. And I know it lacks depth because depth is something that you sort of accentuate as you continue with the piece. Again, this is just a rough, but usually what happens when concept artists work on adding things like depth, they play with like the horizon line, the horizon colors, they play with different shading aspects and stuff like that. This was just like a simple matte that I did. Like these are just like the raw colors and the rough concept. Like there's no added detail to this. But I can always go back to it and add things that would accentuate the depth. But essentially working on, like you say, you wanted to work on architecture and you wanted to work on like world building and like drawing the world. Like this is how you do it. You got to play with multiple perspectives. And you got to play with that foreground and background as well. And then this is an extreme zoom out. Now this piece is maybe like a year old. I definitely think that I've gotten better since then. But this is meant to be like a ring city and you see clouds. There's definitely a heavy usage of more cooler colors. And I do feel like I've gotten better. But for the most part, like it's a process. Like but I can definitely say that the work I'm doing now is far better than what I was doing in my past. And I also decided to work more on my animations. Like, what do you think it is? What causes some people to get really good at art in a few years, while other people's it takes a decade? What do you think causes that? I would say people just reach different states at different times. And so sometimes what happens is people try to blame themselves instead of acknowledging the state that they're in or the season that they're in. And so people have different seasons. People have different eras and different times for themselves and for their art. It's very easy to compare yourself to someone else who's farther along than you when in reality they're just going through their own stage and you're going through your own. It's about the nature of what they're working and why they're working on it or what they're doing. Some people go in and they want to be the biggest, most they want to be the biggest creator with the most followers. So that is what drives them and motivates them in order to grow as much as they do. And so they're able to make a lot of growth because of that. Other people, they just want to be a good artist. And so what happens with them is I'll use myself as an example. If I wanted to, I could be someone who is completely selfish, completely thinks about themselves. I could just follow the newest art trend in a bid or gambit to be the biggest creator ever. But that's not my brand, and that's not what I'm going for. If I could speak about myself personally, I'm actually trying to foster a more personal connection with my art and with the people who subscribe to me. I want to. I just want to have my own little section and my own little place where I make my art. I'm not trying to be the best or the most successful, But if people like what I create and want to rock with me, then that's completely fine and valid. And I will garner whatever success or whatever value I can from the people who wish and want to be associated with me. Some people whine about they're not getting better while others basically take that dirt and wash it off and just go into training for the next year. I just haven't figured it out yet. That's really the only answer I can say, Corgi, is I have not figured it out yet. But when I do figure it out, you will be the first person I tell. All I can really say is everybody has a time and a season. And this might be your time where you're struggling as an artist and you're struggling to grow. Whereas someone else may have just gotten their first big break and their art is on New York Times bestseller. Or you may be someone whose animations are really good, but maybe the social aspect hasn't taken off for you yet, and you have really good work, but nobody is clicking on it or enjoying it. There's a lot of things that affect and pull on and draw on each other to explain why you are where you are or why you're struggling with what it is you're struggling with. I've actually had a pretty good. And you see, that's good. This is your time for mentorship. This is your time to make those connections and learn from someone who is either more experienced or has a better grapple on concepts than you. And that's perfectly fine and that's perfectly natural. Everyone goes through their own process and their own stage. It's all about taking things on day by day. $600, that is very, very expensive. That is very, very expensive. I'm not gonna hold you to that. Like, I don't even have $600 in my bank account right now. So like, but to spend $600 on a mentor, that's really good because you also care about your art, don't you? And you also want to grow as an artist. So that's okay. Now, I mean, I'm pretty sure long term you don't want to keep spending $600. So I'm pretty sure in your mind you're like, I better, I better be able to draw this, that, and the third by the time I'm done with these lessons. But there are people who don't have mentors who aren't paying money, and they get down in the dirt and they work hard. And what I mean by that is people do what they can and people focus on what they can afford to. It is completely fine and it is completely natural for you to spend for you to pay for mentorship while someone else may buy like three or four or five different books or someone may just be in their own art cave and they'll work on an art piece for weeks at a time. Yeah, that's true. But the core principle is to each their own, that people have different things that work for them. So a mentor works for you, but a mentor might not work for somebody else. Or maybe having like a really close art friend helps them. It's all about finding what works for you. I'm playing back my animation because I'm trying to. There's definitely some more in betweening I have to do. I actually am not self taught. You see, my journey starts back in high school when I got into digital media and I had like three different classes in digital media. But the main issue was that while the teachers taught me the basics of animation and graphic design and so on and so forth, they had their own principles and their own areas of focus as well. So I had one teacher, she was more so focused on graphic design, whereas I had another teacher, he was more so focused on videography. And so throughout that, what ended up happening was while they had their own areas of focus, I was still doing a few small. I wasn't really doing animations because at the time when I was in high school, I was very self conscious. So what ended up happening was I just ended up doing a few short animations or just playing with Adobe Animate. And then I would just have those small little projects or those me playing with the software in the background. And then I went to college where I pursued my major and I got my bachelor's degree in media. And media is more so like a general degree, and the teachers there, they were more so focused again on graphic design, and the actual animation program was more so for like game design and 3D animation. But I had a weakness and a love for 2D. So throughout college, I was still working on short animations. And then Even after that, when I graduated, I applied to a bunch of different places. I didn't get hired, so I decided to focus more, not necessarily focus more, but I decided to do YouTube, and I was working on a bunch of independent animation projects, and I would have live streams, and I would post different progresses or different processes of me like working on my animations, and I would post those online. Sometimes I would post a skeleton, other times I would post a finished product, basically trying to build up my skills. And then I sort of took a break from social media because I was working in retail, and then I was working part-time in events, and I was also working as a youth counselor, and sort of the stress of not working in my degree field sort of weighed on me to the point where I just took a hiatus from art in general. And so I'm just now recently getting back into my art. But throughout that time, there were several different classes I took. I took design classes, I took figure modeling classes, figure drawing classes. I've played and I've done things with charcoal, with character design, with acrylic painting. I did some photo bashing with my concept art, just playing everywhere. But the main thing I've wanted to do and be is an animator. And so, really, pretty much everything else I've done and I'm doing is sort of by proxy because it really is all me. I'm doing everything on my own myself. Like, I don't have any stream moderators, I don't have any video editors, I don't have any thumbnail artists. It's all me editing and doing and creating and making all this stuff on my own. I'm the one editing the videos. I'm the one making the thumbnails. I'm the one designing the characters. I'm the one animating. I'm the one doing all the in betweening and storyboarding and audio editing and voice cleanup. And I guess really what I can say is I'm a jack of all trades, but my primary pursuit is animation. And so in order to get into animation, I've had to build up my social media. And it's kind of funny and sad at the same point because I have all these skills and all these different fields, but then when I put that on my resume, it's like nobody wants to hire me, even though I've done everything on my own and I have skills everywhere. And I guess all I can really say is it's really easy to fall in despair when you've worked so hard only to not be recognized. But I am happy for the small growth I have now. I'm very thankful for the small growth I have now because some growth is still something. Something for me to pray about, something for me to be happy about, something for me to be thankful about. But it's like, you know, why can't somebody just see all this hard work I'm doing and give me a job, even if it's something simple? Like, you know, this takes skill, this takes time, this takes effort, this takes a lot of knowledge and know how to do and work on so many different things. Like, but I can't be hasty and I can't be angry and I have to be happy with what I have and where I'm at. So, am I self taught? So, to bring back to the point that you asked me, am I self taught? technically no, but I've done a lot of independent study, which has worth and value of its own, that goes completely unrecognized, except for, say, the 445 subscribers I have. I'm very thankful for all of you who are watching me right now. Thank you all. You guys are awesome. You guys keep me going even when I want to give up or maybe go mad. You're, you're keeping me sane to an extent. Am I going through a sunk cost fallacy of like, how long do I go? Oh, my mom texted me. She's asking me to turn the AC off, so it'll only take like 3 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Like I said, it only took like 3 seconds. The AC is like right near my door. But I guess it goes back to that sunk cost fallacy. Basically, a sunk cost fallacy is how far do you keep going until you get results or until you reach the point of no return. And so it's like, I'm a man of faith, so I believe in God, born and raised Christian, so on and so forth, XYZ, XYZ. Like, so that's a whole big theme of like being faithful even into the end. So that's something that I've always tried to hold on to. Where it goes into that sort of sunk cost fallacy is like, I cannot reconcile that the higher being I believe in would give me such a passion for art and creativity, such a love for wanting to animate and tell stories, enjoying parable, so on and so forth, and then have no plans or desires for me. It's like, it would not make sense, and then it would be like a glitch in the system, I guess you could say. We're getting more into my esoteric thoughts now. I don't want to creep anybody out. Just, there's got to be something for me. Okay, that's really what it comes down to, is out of everything that's going on, out of everything that's happening, out of everything that I've been through, my whole issue with my college major, being in retail but having to get out of there because of wild stuff happening, other stuff happening at my other jobs, and like pretty much just nothing working out for me, but I still have my passion and love for art and creativity. Like, there has to be something. Maybe something I haven't tried, or maybe something that is waiting for me to reach a certain milestone. Because then I'd start to think that I'm an alien or something. You see, there's something wrong right here. It's like